If you're watching this on YouTube, you're in luck because we are starting our scouting reports on the top prospects in the NBA draft. This is YouTube exclusive. This won't be out on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. This is exclusive to YouTube only. And Drew couldn't be here because he's at work right now. So we're going to start off with the best prospect in the NBA draft, and that's Cade Cunningham. Everybody has some number one on their board. He averaged 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists at Oklahoma State. Shot 44% from the field, 40% from three, and 85% from the free throw line. He's 6'8", 220, and Cade Cunningham is phenomenal to me. I'll be honest. And when I was watching him, before I started watching him, I know there are a lot of pro comparisons about him that like he's Ben Simmons with a jump shot. I don't agree with that. I don't think he's Luka either. People compare him to Luka. I don't see Luka as a scorer, maybe, but I think his passing is nowhere near Luka's level. I see this other guy in Cade Cunningham, watching him, and I can't believe he doesn't come to the forefront of a lot of people's minds when they watch Cade as well, and that's Jason Tatum. When I watch Cade, I see a lot of Jason Tatum. Just the way he can score, he can create off the dribble, his movements, his handle, his combos that he uses to get to his spots. I see Tatum. I don't think he's like as natural of a scorer as Jason Tatum, because Jason Tatum in the league, he's just a scorer. He's not much of a playmaker. I think Cade is an initiator of an offense, but he also has Tatum's scoring ability, maybe not as good, but just a tick below. But in the way he moves and gets to his spots, I see that. And obviously, Cade is just a positionless player. And in Oklahoma State, I was watching the Oklahoma game where he dropped 40. He played center because Likely was out. I think that's how you say his last name.
Likely.
Yeah, Likely was out, and he played center in the way that he's motioning the entire team, communicating on defense, that really impressed me. So he can either be your point guard or he can be your small ball five. Like he can literally do everything on the court. I was really impressed by him when I was watching him.
So it's funny that you say that because I forgot who I seen the other day say Cade Cunningham kind of plays like Jason Tatum. I was actually reading up on it, and the more I watch him, the more it kind of makes sense, his movements and the way he scores. I kind of see Tatum, but talk about pro comparisons. I have three guys in mind. One of them might shock you. One of them, but listen when I say it. So obviously, I see a lot of Grant Hill in terms of versatility, his 1 through 4 position, and the way he can be your initiator all offense, the way he can play off ball, the way he can be your scorer. Grant Hill, obviously. I see Luka in terms of the pacing of the game. The way Cade paces the game. Obviously, Luka's playmaking is otherworldly, but in terms of the pace of the game, how he moves at his own pace, he doesn't let anybody else generate his pace. I see a lot of Luka. Now, this third guy, I want you to really sit here and think. And before I say his name, it's about how Cade isn't the fastest guy, but he's crafty. He's a big guy. His movement's kind of like this. But in terms of scoring, I see a lot of Paul Pierce. And what I mean by that is I see a lot of the way he moves, how slow he moves, but the way he still gets his jump shot, the way he still gets to his spots, his mid range. I see a lot of like Paul Pierce in his offensive game, and his 3-point shooting, and his mid range shooting. He is definitely a special player, but those are the three guys I see when it comes to pro comparison.
I mean, Paul Pierce isn't too bad. I mean, I don't see it from like a body type perspective or just how they played the game, because I think Paul Pierce wasn't the initiator Cade is, but from a scoring sense, I could see it definitely. Um, but watching Cade, I think 3 or 4 games specifically. I watched his game versus West Virginia. I watched his game versus Oklahoma. I watched his games in a tournament as well.
Did you watch
And
him beat Baylor twice?
I did not watch him beat
He's the
Baylor.
only guy that beat Baylor this year.
Yeah, I didn't watch him beat Baylor. I have to watch him beat Baylor. But off of what I've seen, these are the strengths I have for him. He's a 3-level scorer. He can create off the dribble. He's positionless, literally. His communication and awareness on defense really impressed me. His leadership and just his toughness. I saw that a lot in the Oklahoma game. He put that team on his back. But versus West Virginia and even some of Oklahoma, I saw these weaknesses pop out. He's loose with the ball.
Yeah.
He is loose with the ball. Like he doesn't have a tight handle. His handle's really high. And that's why I don't really see that Luka comparison. because his handle is not as tight as Luka, and he's not that great of a passer. I understand he faced a lot of double teams last year, but even when he was getting these hard hedges off these screens, he was never looking to pass. He was never looking to make a bounce pass to a rolling man. He was looking to create his own shot. Where I know Luka, he's making that pass. He's a
Right.
magician with the basketball. I don't think Cade Cunningham is a magician as a passer. I don't think he's nowhere near level of passer that Luka is. I don't think he has point guard level passing. I just think he can make plays as in he's driving to the basket and now he gets a kick out to an open man in three and now they can hit a shot like that. But in terms of just like making these magician like passes, something that I've seen Cooper make, I don't think he has that. But that's really my only negative on him, that he's loose with the ball. He's not that great of a passer, and he does get careless with the ball sometimes. Deuce McBride was
Deuce
really stripping him.
deuce.
He was really cooking Cade that game. He was really cooking him.
Yeah. I mean, so here we go. So I guess your strengths and your weaknesses is kind of like my pros and cons. So I named it pros and cons, but
And that's
here's
the
my
same thing.
yeah, here's my pros for Cade's game. I watched damn near the whole season. I watched him versus West Virginia. I watched him versus Baylor twice. I watched him versus Oklahoma. So I watched damn near every game this year. His pros, obviously, his shot creation, his defensive versatility. He can guard 1 through 4 for the most part, small ball fives at a time. His playmaking, I think his playmaking is really good for that size. His poise and his pace to the game, the way he approaches the game, the way he dictates the game, I think that's incredible. And his clutch scoring, I think in the second half, with under 6, 7 minutes to go, when they needed a bucket, he came up clutch. He was their go-to guy all season. And then some cons for me, I seen his lack of speed and quickness, with big guards like Ben Simmons, LaMelo Ball. We see they still have that speed, that burst, whether it's in the half court, in the full court. Cade doesn't really have that. He's kind of slow on his feet a little bit. He's kind of moving like a big guy. Obviously, he doesn't have like a real go-to move. Like he doesn't have much ball handling ability where he can get past a lot of his defenders. You saw it like with Deuce McBride, even with Davion Mitchell at times, Jared Butler. He doesn't really have that. He uses his body, but he doesn't really have a go-to move where he can get much separation or he can get to the basket quick enough. And then obviously on defense, same way his versatility is a pro, his foot speed is a lack, like it's a weakness. Sometimes he can't keep up with his position, which I think is the point guard spot. Sometimes guys are too fast for him, or sometimes guys are too quick for him. So other than that, those are his cons. But I think for the most part, his pros outweigh his cons.
I think we should have the same ceiling for Cade. When I see Cade and like the absolute best he can possibly be,
Yeah.
I think he can be an MVP in the
Mm.
NBA. I really do.
Yeah.
And I think his absolute floor
Is
is
an
an
all-star.
all-star.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't see anything different. Even though we've been talking about his negatives, I really don't see anything different for Cade. Like I see an all NBA player and nothing less pretty much.
Yeah, I think like his negatives, like we talk about his playmaking isn't great, but I think with the spacing in the NBA and if a team is ready to build around him, he's gonna make those passes. And he like you said, MVP. I see an
Yeah.
MVP without a doubt, low ceiling all-star. And that's a multiple time all-star, even
Yeah.
then. Has the highest ceiling in the draft to me.
And not all assists are created equally. You just look at the NBA. Trey Young, his assists are different from Draymond's, even though they only like the separation isn't by that many assists. Their assists are extremely different.
Yep.
I think Cade's assists are going to come off of kickouts and just going into team fifth. I think we all think he's going to get drafted by the Pistons. The Pistons have already said, look, we're locked in on this guy, and they should be.
I think
At
he fits
Oklahoma,
anywhere though, to
yeah,
be honest.
at Oklahoma State, he was getting doubled like every time. The only other player that can really create on that team was Avery Anderson. Outside of that, nobody could really create. And on a lot of Cade's passes to open players on the 3-point line, they were missing these shots. Like if you go to Detroit, and for one, no rookie comes into the NBA and gets double teamed off rip.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna take time for him to garner that respect and then get doubled. But in Detroit, you have Killian Hayes, who I think, even though he hasn't shown he can be a good shooter, I think no, pardon me, I misworded that. Even though his percentages show that he didn't shoot well, I still think he's going to be a good shooter. Jeremy Grant is a good shooter. Sadiq Bey is one of the best 3-and-D players in the league right now. And then at center, many centers don't shoot that well anyway. So I think with the Pistons, it's going to be hard to double team Cade with that many shooters on the perimeter. And I think Killian, who's a good defender last year, could mask some of the deficiencies Cade has in guarding guards. I mean, even not Killian, but like you got Sadiq Bey, who's a great defender. You got Jeremy Grant, who's a great defender. Killian Hayes, I think, is a great defender. So you have three high level perimeter defenders who can mask Cade's weaknesses on defense. I think Cade, they can put him on a forward, they can put him on a PJ Tucker in the corner, and then not worry about him too much because he might not be a great on ball defender, but I think he's a great help defender. So
Great
that's the
team
perfect
defender,
role.
definitely.
Yeah. So that's the perfect role for him.
Yeah, I think like I said before, I think he can fit on any team in the NBA. Honestly, I think he's that type of dude where you could just plug him on any team and he's gonna make it work because he's so versatile. With Detroit, I think him playing off ball in Oklahoma State, it's definitely gonna benefit walking into Detroit because then him and Killian can kind of switch on, switch off. Killian can play more on ball. Cade is comfortable playing off the ball, and he can play the 1, 2, the 3, the 4. Him and Jeremy Grant pick and roll is going to be really fun to see. And like you said, with Sadiq Bey, Killian Hayes out there, Jeremy Grant, they can run a small ball lineup with Grant at the 5 if they wanted to. But I think this is a good fit because they're starting to get their foundation for their young core. Killian's there, Sadiq Bey's there. Jeremy Grant, he's not young, but he's young. So it's like he's 26. So he's still in that young range. I think he's really good. So fitting in that system, being able to play off ball and running the pick and roll, I think it's going to be really good for him.
I think Detroit is a sleeper to be a playing team next year
Mm. Woo.
because of Cade.
Oh.
Because of Cade. Because not only is Cade coming in, who I think is probably going to average 25 and 5 his rookie year,
Oh.
but Killian Hayes, I think he's going to take a big step next year.
Has to.
Injuries derailed his rookie season. I think he's going to take a big step next year. I think he was one of the best prospects in his past draft. Jeremy Grant, he's become one of those guys in the NBA, like one of those borderline all-star guys. He's taking that big of a leap. Sadiq Bey, I think, is still going to be great. I thought he was a lottery pick coming into the draft, but
Mm.
obviously he slid and he's been an immediate impact player. And then you got guys like Isaiah Stewart, Diallo off the bench, Frank Jackson, Josh Jackson, Saban Lee. I think they got a pretty good roster. They just like Cade can really make all of that stuff gel. I think they'll be just shy of the playoffs next year. I think they'll be a surprise team, but I think after next season, they'll definitely be in the playoffs because they'll have cap.
Uh-huh.
Going away from Blake Griffin's buyout, they'll finally free up cap. And then they can really enhance this roster around Cade and get some really great talent around him.
It's interesting that you said I don't want to put too much expectations on Cade, and then I gotta bend. I do think this team is gonna be competitive. I don't want to say play in, but they're gonna be competitive. Games are gonna be hard, and like you named all those players, they're all young players. So it's gonna be good to see that Cade walks into a situation where now he can be that leader that he was at Oklahoma State. He can kind of be that vocal leader in the locker room, to be that vocal leader on the court, because that's what he was at Oklahoma State. And with old guys, rookies coming in, they're kind of like, you don't really know what you're talking about. But with these guys, like you said, all those names, young players, young, fresh guys in the league. Detroit, Josh Jackson kind of made himself relevant again with his Detroit coming into Detroit. Sadiq Bey kind of drafted a little. He slipped in the draft. He made a name for himself. Killian Hayes still trying to find his way. So there's a lot of young guys on the team where he can come in and just be that leader for them.
You
Now,
know what I
25 and
think?
5 is crazy.
You
I would
know,
say about 18, 19, and
I
6.
mean, that's the same thing. 18, 20. That's like the
When
same
you
thing
said
pretty much.
25.
No, 20,
Oh,
20
okay.
points, 5
Oh, okay,
rebounds,
okay.
5 assists.
Yeah, I thought you said 25 and
No,
5.
not 25 points. No. But this is the thing. I think Detroit next season is going to be what Memphis was in
Their first year?
in the bubble in the first
Oh,
year,
in the
in John
okay.
Moran's first year. I think that's what Detroit is going to be next season. And the East is really deep. People are sleeping on the East. The East has a lot of great
Who's
teams
sleeping
next
on
year.
the East?
I feel like people are sleeping on the East.
A
We always talk about the West. I think the East is really
lot of
getting
teams
good.
were unhealthy last year.
Yeah, I think the East is really getting good.